Apparently, Meghan Markle is now on the cover of Harper's Bazaar. Okay, she's on the cover of Harper's Bazaar.
Meghan Markle, and to no one's surprise, it is the exact same stories and sound bites and tidbits.
And she's going, what are you writing about? I said, she's given this interview to Harper's Bazaar magazine.
Meghan Markle sold her soul to the devil to get a cover, not on Vogue, which is the one that she wanted, but on Harper's Bazaar. Oh, bizarre.
Let's stick with Meghan. She sat down with Harper's Bazaar for another tell-all interview. Kinsey for the cover.
That is just what's happened overnight with this extraordinary cover feature on Harper's Bazaar with Meghan Markle.
Delusion on display. Meghan's new interview in Harper's Bazaar came out, and I want to talk about it, but we're not going to go through the whole thing.
We're going to dig into this one today because she is out there. She's cover girl now for Harper's Bazaar.
The First Lady of Montecito, Meghan Markle.
Meghan Markle interview. She is one of the most disliked known figures. She has nothing new going on.
I mean, she's seen that some of this no makeup, natural look is playing very well for some other famous women.
This woman looks rough, aged, and this is in spite of all the airbrushing they did.
By the magazine editor that wanted to turn you into a star, that in their cover feature...
All right, huge disclaimer. We are not reading the entire Bazaar article because it was bizarre. And honestly, Meghan Markle is just, let me think about it. Delulu with the capital D.
Did Meghan Markle just prove in her Harper's Bazaar interview?
Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, it's revealed in a new interview given to Harper Bazaar magazine.
When you are important, nobody needs to introduce you because they know who you are. But of course, Meghan Markle has to have somebody announce her using the colonialist title. I tried to make my hair as raggedy as possible to kind of match the Meghan Markle vibe.
Harper's Bazaar expected a comeback moment. Meghan expected a win. Instead, the second her new cover dropped, something felt off. It wasn't the styling. It wasn't the lighting. It was the vibe. The whole thing carried this strange, uneasy energy, like someone pushing a story too hard and hoping people would just go along with it. But the audience wasn't buying it anymore. The reaction wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet and sharp. Even inside Bazaar, there were whispers that the cover didn't land the way they hoped. Some insiders reportedly felt it underperformed compared to recent releases. Meghan may not have seen it coming, but that subtle wave of disappointment said more than the photos ever could. Sometimes silence speaks the loudest. The thing about a photo shoot is simple. The camera doesn't lie. No matter how polished the plan is, the lens catches what's really there. Meghan reportedly walked into that shoot with a clear mission. Look natural, look soft, look deep. Present herself as someone who weathered storms and came out wiser on the other side. That was the narrative. But the final images told a different story. The natural look didn't come off effortless. It looked unfinished. The soft lighting didn't feel peaceful. It made her seem drained instead of calm. And the expressions? They weren't reflective or serene. They looked tight, controlled, like someone thinking about how they should look instead of just being in the moment. There wasn't a single frame that felt fully relaxed. Not one shot where the mood and the expression truly clicked. Not one moment that screamed authenticity. The concept itself wasn't the issue. The styling wasn't the issue. The real problem was the disconnect. When the feeling behind the image doesn't match the story being told, people notice. The camera picked up tension, subtle but real. The kind of tension that shows when someone is trying to prove something instead of simply existing in the space. And viewers are sharper than ever now. They can sense when something feels forced. For someone who built her public image around confidence and control, the photos showed something different. A flicker of uncertainty.
Meghan is in her natural habitat. This is what she wanted. The cameras, the curated lighting, the oversized ego. Her entire existence here is exactly what she curated. She wants to feel important. She loves feeling important. That's why she loves having that Duchess of Sussex title. Because nobody else, you and I can't get that unless we go and marry off somebody. but she has it. And hold on, I have a picture of exactly how I want it to look like. And she shows the photo of her mother-in-law. We're in a grand brownstone to the Upper East Side that belongs to one of Meghan's friends. When I enter, the house manager announces, "Meghan, Duchess of Sussex," even though we appear to be the only other two people in the house.
For someone known for polished messaging, the visuals hinted at cracks in the surface. If this was meant to be a reinvention, it didn't feel new. It felt familiar. And that's what made it confusing. But the real shift happened when people started reading the interview. Because suddenly, the tone of the words didn't match the mood of the images at all. That gap became impossible to ignore. Harper's Bazaar isn't just a glossy magazine. It's a calculated machine, a polished, strategic brand that tracks performance in real time. They know within the first hour if a cover is catching fire. Shares climb. Comments roll in. Fashion pages repost. Publicists celebrate. Energy builds fast when a cover hits. This time, that spark never came. Reports suggest engagement stayed flat. Influencers weren't rushing to repost. Readers weren't calling it bold or groundbreaking. There was no viral moment, no explosion. Instead, there was a slow dip, the kind of steady decline that tells experienced editors something didn't connect. And it wasn't a technical issue. The layout was clean, the color palette was fine, the production quality was there. It wasn't even about Meghan being controversial. The deeper issue felt emotional. The mood didn't feel fully honest, and audiences picked up on that right away. So behind closed doors, conversations reportedly started, calm, professional, careful. The language was polite, because that's how the industry talks when something misses the mark. Maybe the tone could have been stronger. Maybe the concept needed refining. Maybe the timing wasn't ideal. All safe ways to say one thing. It didn't work. While the fashion world quietly dissected the rollout, the interview text became the bigger story. Because once readers dug into the words, the disconnect felt even sharper. The vulnerability described in the article didn't match the guarded look in the photos. The depth promised on paper didn't fully translate visually. And that's the part no lighting trick can fix. You can soften shadows. You can adjust angles. You can style the perfect outfit. But when the message and the mood don't line up, people feel it instantly. And in today's media climate, audiences aren't just looking at the image, they're reading between every line. The cover was supposed to signal strength and transformation. Instead, it sparked debate about authenticity. And whether fair or not, that conversation became louder than the photos themselves. No dramatic scandal, no explosive backlash. Just a quiet, steady realization that the moment didn't hit the way it was meant to. And sometimes, that's louder than anything else. If the photos felt a little off, the interview made it impossible to ignore. Not because Meghan said anything wild or shocking, she didn't. It was the tone, the delivery, those long, polished sentences that sounded carefully prepared instead of truly lived. Every answer felt smooth, controlled, like it had passed through layers of approval before reaching the page. She spoke about boundaries, about growth, about protecting her peace, about navigating the spotlight, all themes people have heard before, all wrapped in phrases neat enough to print on a book cover. But here's the problem. The words didn't fully line up with what the public has watched over the past few years. Her lifestyle doesn't exactly signal someone stepping away from attention. Her public appearances don't suggest someone retreating into privacy.
Here from Harper's Bazaar, courtesy of TRG The Royal Grift on X. And here, the Harper's Bazaar article says, her circle of trust is tight. So Meg's circle of trust is tight, guys. She puts her hand on her heart. This way. Yeah. Puts her hand on her heart when she talks about her husband.
Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. Even though we appear to be the only other two people in the house. And we thought the constant monogramming of everything with her initials was bad.
She's announced as the Duchess of Sussex when she walks in. Like, even the author, who is very generous to Meghan throughout this article, is like, that's weird.
And that gap, the space between what's said and what's shown, created a quiet tension the interview couldn't smooth over. There was a moment when she spoke gently about healing and transformation. The tone slowed down. The language softened. It should have felt powerful. Instead, the words just floated there, Elegant, yes, but weightless. Like she was describing a version of herself that exists more in theory than in real life. The issue wasn't vocabulary, the issue was delivery. Meghan has a very specific way of speaking when she wants to sound reflective. Slow, measured, poetic. Each line placed carefully, like it's meant to land with emotional impact. But instead of sounding deep, it felt distant. Instead of sounding wise, it felt rehearsed. Instead of sounding open, it felt guarded. And that's when the mood started to shift. Because once the conversation turned toward Harry, everything changed. Up until that point, the tone stayed steady and controlled. The same familiar language about growth and boundaries. But when Prince Harry's name entered the discussion, something subtle shifted in the rhythm of her words. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't loud. It was small, but noticeable. She didn't describe him in warm, emotional detail the way many people might describe a partner. Instead, she focused on his role. What he does, how he protects her, how he absorbs pressure, how he identifies threats before she does, how he supports her more than anyone ever has. The emphasis stayed on function. It wasn't openly affectionate. It wasn't framed as mutual admiration. It felt more like someone outlining the ways another person shields them from the outside world. And while it may have been intended as appreciation, the phrasing landed in a more clinical way, not explosive, not scandalous, just uneven. When you read her words slowly, the imbalance becomes clearer. She didn't spend much time explaining what she admires about him personally. She didn't dive into what she contributes emotionally to the relationship. She didn't highlight what makes their connection feel balanced or shared. Instead, the focus stayed on what he provides. And that subtle detail changed the entire energy of the section. It didn't feel like tabloid drama. It wasn't over-the-top gossip. It was quieter than that. The kind of thing that makes readers pause and reread a paragraph twice. Because tone matters. Word choice matters. And when someone consistently frames a partner through the lens of protection and service, it shapes perception whether they intend it to or not.
I think my boundaries have become stronger. You find different ways to protect yourself. She's talking about with the fame and all the spotlight. Here's what she has to say about Harry. He loves me so boldly, so fully, and he has a different perspective because he sees media that I wouldn't. No one in the world loves me.
She puts her hand on her heart when she talks about her husband. He loves me so boldly, fully, and he also has a different perspective because he sees media that I wouldn't. No one in the world loves me more than him. So I know he's always going to make sure that he has my back.
That's what made this part of the interview stand out. Not outrage, not scandal, just a shift in language that revealed more than it probably meant to. And that's where the tension really started to build. Prince Harry has always been open about his struggles. He's spoken publicly about the pressure of the media, the mental weight he carries, and how deeply criticism affects him. He has admitted he can be sensitive, reactive, and overwhelmed at times. That honesty has been part of his public story for years. So when Meghan framed his constant monitoring of the press as something that helps her, it painted a very specific picture. It may not have been intentional, but it suggested that the emotional load falls heavily on him, that he absorbs the impact, that he stands between her and the storm so she doesn't have to feel it as directly. Even if that wasn't the message she meant to send, it's how it read. Suddenly, the glossy power couple image felt a little less balanced. Her team has worked hard to present unity and strength, but when readers sense even a slight imbalance, they pick up on it fast. And once that seed is planted, the tone of the interview shifts. What started as inspirational begins to feel complicated. Still, that wasn't the moment that truly unraveled things. That moment came later, quietly, in a single detail so small it almost felt random. Yet it became the most revealing part of the entire piece. The interview took place inside a New York brownstone. Not a flashy studio, not a luxury hotel suite, not a grand public venue, just a private home, calm, intimate, the kind of place where people usually relax and let their guard down. For most public figures, that setting would signal comfort, a chance to drop the performance and just exist. But here, it turned into something else entirely. When the journalist arrived, the atmosphere was reportedly simple and quiet. No chaos, no large entourage, just a few people and the rhythm of an ordinary day. Then Meghan entered the room. But instead of walking in casually, she was formally announced. Out loud. Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. In a living room, with only a couple of people present. No crowd, no ceremony, no official function. Just a private space in New York. It was such a small detail, easy to overlook, yet it shifted the tone of the entire article. Because suddenly, everything clicked into place. The carefully measured language, the polished delivery, the subtle tension in the photos. It wasn't about the title itself. Titles are part of history and identity. It was about the ritual of it, the formality, the need for that moment of recognition, even in a setting that didn't require it. That's what stood out. For someone who has spoken about stepping away from royal life, that announcement felt symbolic. Not dramatic, not explosive, just telling. In that instant, the entire photo shoot started to make more sense. The seriousness in her expression, the intensity in the tone, the sense of holding on to something tightly. It didn't feel like reinvention. It felt like preservation. Since leaving the United Kingdom, her identity has shifted in public perception. From working royal to media entrepreneur. From palace life to California projects.
It is the exact same stories and sound bites and tidbits that she has said at least 3 other times. There is not one single new anecdote in this interview, if you can believe it. I have read it, skimmed over it very quickly. She's trying to do this photo shoot that's just as glamorous, just as pretentious as all the rest, especially with somebody there whose job specifically.
The Duchess of Sussex! Someone in the scrum announces. And those flippers, how can a woman who is 5'2" have such big feet?
Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, even though we appear to be the only 2 people in the house.
That transition isn't simple. And maybe that small ceremonial moment was a reminder that some parts of identity are harder to release than others. What makes it even more striking is that it likely wasn't meant to be a headline. It was just a detail in the background of the story. But sometimes the smallest moments speak the loudest. Readers felt it immediately, because context matters. A formal introduction carries weight, especially in a quiet room where it isn't necessary. It created a contrast that lingered long after the rest of the interview faded. Not scandal, not outrage, just an image that stuck in people's minds. A duchess in a private brownstone, a formal title in an informal space, a carefully shaped narrative meeting a very human moment. And that contrast said more than any quote ever could. And once readers noticed that detail, everything else in the article started to feel different. Her words, her poses, her tone, even the tension in her expression. It all seemed to circle back to one idea. She isn't moving forward, she's holding on. And the harder she tries to shape the narrative, the clearer that becomes by the final paragraph. By the time people finished the piece, something felt obvious. The issue wasn't the styling, it wasn't the quotes, it wasn't even that formal announcement in the living room. It was the underlying feeling that Meghan appears caught between 2 very different worlds, and not fully grounded in either one. On one side, there's the symbolism of royalty, the grace, the weight, the sense of standing above the noise, a title that carries history and status. For her, that title seems deeply personal, not just a label, but part of her identity, a reminder of where she stood and how she was once viewed. On the other side, there's Hollywood, freedom, glamour, red carpets, brand partnerships, invitations, a world that rewards visibility without the strict traditions of royal duty, a space built on reinvention and personal branding. She stepped away from the formal structure of royal life because she didn't want the constant rules and expectations. That much has been publicly stated. But at the same time, she hasn't fully blended into Hollywood culture either. She doesn't move like a typical celebrity. She doesn't present like someone who has completely embraced that space. Instead, she seems to hover in between. And that in-between energy may be why the Harper's Bazaar cover struggled to connect. It wasn't that the concept was terrible. It wasn't that the photographer lacked skill. It wasn't that Meghan didn't put in effort.
asked on Bravo, what do you feel about Meghan Markle copying you? And so Pamela, as you know, has gone barefaced over the last few years, and it's gotten her a lot of positive attention. Meghan, throughout this piece, there's also at the very end, she says Meghan is remarkably at ease with the surrealism of global celebrity. In fact, she seems to enjoy it.
Yeah, it's a bit.
The deeper issue felt emotional. The story she's trying to tell doesn't perfectly align with the woman people see in the images. Hollywood thrives on evolution, on shedding old layers, on stepping boldly into the next chapter. But this shoot didn't feel like a bold new chapter. It felt like a reminder of the past. The expressions carried seriousness. The poses felt controlled, almost like reaching backward while trying to step forward at the same time. Audiences don't always need a clear explanation. They just sense when something feels unresolved. There's a subtle conflict in the way she presents herself, the way she speaks, the way she holds eye contact with the camera. It feels like someone navigating two identities that don't fully merge. And that tension isn't explosive. It isn't scandalous. It's quieter than that. It's heavy, because beneath the glamour, the partnerships, the interviews, and the polished branding, you can see someone trying to balance two versions of herself at once. And that's not easy for anyone, especially under constant public scrutiny. When Harper's Bazaar reportedly acknowledged the cover didn't perform as hoped, that wasn't the sharpest moment. The sharper realization was that the audience didn't emotionally invest this time. Not because she's incapable of a strong comeback, not because people are rooting against her, but because the message didn't feel fully anchored. And when a public figure seems uncertain about their own direction, that uncertainty spreads quietly to the audience. It didn't spark outrage, it didn't cause dramatic backlash, it created something more subtle, disappointment. And disappointment lingers. There's a big difference between people being briefly annoyed and people feeling fatigued. Annoyance fades fast. Fatigue sticks around. And what followed this Harper's Bazaar release didn't feel like anger. It felt like weariness. People didn't look at the cover and feel shocked. They didn't feel curious. They didn't rush to debate it. The reaction was muted, calm, almost detached. That's what made it powerful, because indifference is harder to fix than criticism. When criticism hits, there's energy, there's conversation, there's noise. But when the response is simply a shrug, it signals something deeper. A disconnect that styling, lighting, or carefully crafted interviews can't easily repair. In the end, this wasn't about one photo shoot. It was about perception, about alignment, about whether the image on the page matches the identity being presented. And this time, for many readers, it didn't quite match. They weren't even entertained. They just felt done. There's a certain heaviness that settles in when an audience feels like they've seen the same pattern play out too many times. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's quiet and steady. Like a curtain slowly closing while someone keeps trying to step back into the spotlight. This photo shoot and interview didn't offer anything new. The tone felt familiar. The message felt familiar. The emotional framing felt familiar. Transformation, growth, reinvention.
Meghan Markle, okay, she was British royalty. Meghan Markle was as high as you could get in British society and basically global society. I mean, we just saw they had a massive state dinner at Windsor Castle.
This is who Harper's Bazaar thought would be the right person to profile Meghan Markle. Meghan on the cover of Harper's, I'm just gonna say it, she doesn't look good. She looks sad. She's makeupless, which I'm sorry, but it's not good. She needs some eyeliner. The eyes are too close together and she looks forlorn. I didn't actually ever realize how much work that eyeliner is doing on her. And here's just a little bit from the cover piece. I don't know how any woman could see a young girl and not see herself in her, especially at that age, Meghan tells me later. Once again, Meghan Markle makes everything about herself.
You might be looking at Meghan Markle saying, well, she's in Harper's Bazaar, she's in a big magazine. Sweetie, this is a major downgrade from being British royalty.
Those are powerful themes when they reflect a clear shift. But reinvention only connects when people can actually see the change. And this time, nothing about the cover felt new. Nothing suggested a sharp turn. Nothing hinted at a deeper breakthrough. Nothing made readers pause and say, okay, this feels different. Instead, it felt like a replay of a narrative people already know by heart. Misunderstood. Misjudged. emerging stronger than ever. Those storylines can work, but only if the audience believes the arc. People struggle to embrace a comeback if they never clearly saw the fall. They struggle to believe in transformation when every public appearance carries the same tone, the same posture, the same performance. That's why the reaction felt heavier this time. It wasn't about the lighting. It wasn't about the interview answers. It wasn't even about that formal title moment in the brownstone. It hit harder because people seemed to reach a quiet conclusion. They don't want another chapter of the same script. What they wanted felt simpler, something grounded, something less controlled, something that doesn't feel carefully shaped for maximum impact. For years, her team has operated with precision, strong visuals, carefully chosen language, strategic placements. The belief that the right combination of imagery and vocabulary can turn any moment into something iconic. And sometimes that works, but public perception doesn't bend forever. Eventually, audiences stop reacting to the polish. They start looking for authenticity. And when they don't find it, they disengage. Not angrily, not explosively, just gradually. People get tired of repetition, especially when the person delivering the message never seems to step out of character. This time, the reaction felt unusually unified. Not extreme, not vicious, just clear. This isn't connecting anymore. And that clarity might be the most revealing part of the entire situation. Because what this moment exposed wasn't just a cover that underperformed. It highlighted something deeper. What happens when someone tries to build a fresh identity while still tightly holding on to an older one? You can't fully step into a new chapter if one foot is still planted in the last. In the end, the cover didn't stumble because of styling choices or lighting decisions. It didn't miss because of one awkward detail. It struggled because it reflected a bigger tension, a public figure navigating two identities without fully settling into either. And until that internal direction feels clear, moments like this are likely to repeat. Not with dramatic headlines, not with explosive scandals, but with that same steady feeling of distance from the audience. That's the part that lingers. If you want more breakdowns like this, clear, honest, and straight to the point, make sure you subscribe and stay locked in for the next one.